Hey, I grew up on Air Force bases. How hard can this be? I feel the need for speed. Oh boy. Whoa! Help! Sticking to TV stuff. Nebraska kids work with NASA to build and launch a research satellite. A whiz at creating fun in the sky. Surgery in space with the doctor on Earth? What if? Yep, that's me in the Omaha World Herald in 1969. I've been fascinated by things that fly for a long time. That's what happens when you have a dad who has a career flying planes like this. So it's fun to make this episode of What If about innovation and creativity in the sky. And throughout the show, we're going to highlight some examples of innovation on display here at the Strategic Air Command and Aerospace Museum. But first, watch how a Norfolk entrepreneur creates entertainment in the sky. It's opening night of the Nebraska State Fair. All the usual stuff. Then something most have never seen before. "300 drones plus fireworks telling a story in the sky." How does this happen?
The team is on the road.
It starts with a whiz who's spent a lifetime building things.
I don't care if we're pouring concrete or if we're flying a drone show. We're going to go have fun every day. Otherwise, why'd be here?
First thing you need to know about Don Wisniewski is he's whiz. Fine with me, it's easier to say. He's had a construction company for 3 decades, added curb grinding, insulation, cemetery maintenance, rental houses.
Unbeknownst to me, people call me a big entrepreneur here in Norfolk, and I never thought of it that way because I was just doing what came naturally and doing something more and doing something different.
He's also been in charge of Norfolk's big 4th of July fireworks show for almost as long. A good fit for a guy who grew up in a farm family that threw big parties and shot off a lot of fireworks on the 4th.
Everybody needs a hobby. I don't hunt, I don't fish, I just blow stuff up, right?
One day, the entrepreneur with a passion for creating entertainment in the sky was approached about pivoting to something kind of new.
So it's like, let's think about getting rid of some of the other stuff and go stay with the fireworks and stay with the drones and make a real good medium out of this for aerial entertainment. It just goes hand in hand. And it really took off.
Fantasy Drone Shows has been all over the country, sometimes 2 different places on the same night, sometimes with fireworks. Maybe none so far bigger than this. Greatest moment so far?
Greatest moment? University of Nebraska when we did the volleyball game. What it took to get our foot in the door, we actually had to kind of go the back way around it and get to John Cook, to be honest with you. We got a rendering in front of him, and my understanding was his exact words, That is sick. Make it happen.
It was quite nerve-wracking. You want to make an impression. You've got one shot to do that. And if it doesn't go well, then things aren't going to go well for you. But if it does, then your phone's going to start ringing the next day. So we made it all happen, and everything went well, and the phone's ringing.
Don Wisniewski here. How are you this fine day?
So, how do you make a drone show? It starts with Wiz talking to the customer.
Now, typically, Labor Day is a holiday, and that normally goes up to that $350 a drone.
Then the rest of the team gets involved, including business manager Jolene, Wiz's wife. And guys whose previous jobs had nothing to do with drones. The connection? They all helped Wiz with fireworks.
This goes back to when I was talking about Wiz being detail-oriented. That fantasy sticker's crooked, so I gotta fix that.
That's a fancy way of saying OCD.
Nobody's going to notice it if it's straight, but they will if it's not.
Yep.
It's an image we're after here.
Now they're going to show us how they do what they do, creating a special show just for us. It starts with Brian looking at location and airspace. Our show is easy. It's happening on the acreage that includes the company's building and family home, where they've flown shows before. But using the State Fair show as an example, Brian works with Google Earth on one monitor, a VFR aeronautical map for pilots on another.
We need to think about where people are going to be and where moving traffic is. We can't fly over people, we can't fly over moving traffic.
Proximity to airports matters. Inside the blue dots means inside restricted airspace.
Most of Grand Island is inside of that Class D airspace, so I know I'm going to need to have airspace authorization for that.
Brian also keeps audience experience in mind. About how far generally is sort of the sweet spot?
2 city blocks away is ideal. You really get a good view of the show.
Now Scott and his design studio software take over.
There's all my coordinates up here, so I can change the radius of it. I can make it bigger, smaller. I can change how many times it turns. You know, like right now it's on 2. I could put 3 in there, so it gives it more turns.
Sometimes adapting things already built, like an American flag. Sometimes starting from scratch, with a little surprise for our show. Most shows take a week or so to build and can last up to 15 minutes. Scott uses unlimited colors and smooths transitions between images. The program keeps a safety bubble between drones and provides an accurate look at the show and location where they're flying.
We can kind of tell a story with drones, you know, so it's tying all those images together to make it flow and make it, you know, kind of tell what we want to tell.
And our show's going to have 4 different elements in
Correct.
the story,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Everyone helps with things like packing and prepping the drones.
How much of your life do you think is spent taking batteries in and out of drones?
A third. That's the biggest thing with drones is battery management, because nothing works without power.
As another part of the business, Ben uses drones to record video of things like acreages and houses for sale.
That was really freaking close.
Yeah, we're good.
And video of their shows.
It goes back to being able to market this better in that social media, and utilizing a drone to capture drone light shows is just second nature.
What are you doing here?
Right now we're setting up the ground station. This will be what communicates with the drones, gets the GPS signal from the satellites, sends all that info.
These are the antennas that we use and the interface boxes. So the signal goes from the computer into the interface box, into the antenna, sends the information out to the drones.
Time to lay out 200 drones on a grid.
16 meters right to here, and there's our 4 corners. We put them about an inch away from our tape measure that were out there, dead center on a black mark.
Okay.
I'll show you the first one, and then after that, you're on your own.
Okay.
We pay weekly, very weekly.
Very weakly, but a bump. Making a drone show. Don't step on a drone.
How's your back?
This is hard. Drones are hard.
Grid's laid out.
Yeah. Time sync. Heading check.
Red is noting that it's not facing true north.
How many times have you stepped on a drone doing this?
None. I have yet to step on a drone, and I have size 15 feet.
I don't believe you.
I have yet to step on a drone.
All right, 200 to 200 ready. Everybody good to go?
It hasn't been long since Wiz even saw his first drone show. From idea to investing in expensive drones and software to adding staff, equipment, and more drones, Fantasy Drone Shows has grown quickly.
Really has taken off almost exactly how I was thinking on day one. If we did this, this, and this, this, and this, and this is going to happen. And how are we going to scale it? When are we going to scale it accordingly?
Be careful being over the top of those tubes.
So what's easier, drones or fireworks? Drones.
Less physical work.
That's a family fun game, the ring bottle game.
3, 2, 1, go for music.
You gotta wonder what they're thinking right now.
A cow! A cow!
Talk a little bit about Wiz. Is Wiz kind of a force of nature?
Wiz is a cool cat.
Keep our heads up, they are over our heads.
I don't know when the guy sleeps. He works all the time. He's thinking all the time about how to make things bigger, better, more efficient, easier on the body so that we have energy to do more. So he's Wiz.
I'm into the finale. Yeah! Awesome, 100% both ways.
It was awesome. That was probably one of the coolest fireworks shows, drone shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I've never seen anything like that in person before.
Our client. That was phenomenal. I'm already getting tons of messages from people. Thank you.
Awesome. That's what we like to hear.
You've been doing this for 3 years, and yet you're still giddy about a show.
I know. Every show. I still have a gut ache before every show, too. Nerves, of course. Everyone's a high-profile show, and you want it to go perfect. Tonight went perfect. Couldn't ask for a better night.
What hooked you?
I think just the fun and the excitement. I really like working with drones and new types of technology, but there's also that level of creating something for an audience that really awes them.
There's nothing about this that isn't fun, you know? That's what this is all about, is entertainment. It's wowing people. It's great to hear the oohs and the ahs and the applause at the end.
You know, they say that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I love doing this.
What's in the future? Maybe shows at national monuments for America 250 celebrations, or shows at the U.S. Capitol or Super Bowl. Wiz dreams big.
I couldn't be having more fun doing this. This is just great.
By the way, since we shot that story, Wiz and team have expanded and opened an office in Ohio to make it easier to fly drone shows in the eastern part of the country. So earlier, I told you we'd be exploring all kinds of aerospace innovation here at the museum, starting with, well, a very different type of drone. The Firebee was one of the early remotely piloted aircraft used by the U.S. during the Vietnam War for photographic and electronic reconnaissance, flying 500 miles an hour just a couple hundred feet off the ground. Here's something a lot bigger. The B-36 was the largest bomber ever built, designed to fly 7,000 miles and stay in the air for 40 hours without landing. With this, they had to create a place for crew to take turns sleeping and eating in the back of the plane. And this innovation is how they got there from the cockpit all the way through the bomb bay. It's kind of cozy in here. The so-called magnesium monster was created for intercontinental bombing raids during World War II, but it wasn't ready before the war ended. With jet aircraft development, it became obsolete before ever dropping a bomb in combat. The unique shape of the Vulcan was definitely innovative when Britain's largest combat plane was introduced in the 1950s. But we're also interested in all the creative restoration efforts that are happening here with the Vulcan and other planes. A team of volunteers will work more than 20,000 hours restoring the plane, sanding, stripping, and blasting with baking soda layers of paint, fixing broken or corroded pieces, deconstructing and removing inside stuff like flight controls to restore those separately, repainting with an eye on detail, using photos and other documents as a guide. Finally, putting it all back together and on display. For the Vulcan, this will take 4 years of hard work. How about some space travel? This lander was designed by the Dynetics Company as part of NASA's goal to return humans to the moon and establish a base that could lead to missions to Mars. Innovation starts with the low-slung horizontal shape, making it easier for astronauts to go back and forth to the lunar surface. It was also created to be refueled and reusable. NASA would select a different company's design for the Artemis program's human landing system, but this is still a good example of all the work and innovation going into getting humans back to the moon in the next decade. So beyond this, there's lots of research happening all the time in space on NASA's International Space Station, including one project created by some young Nebraskans.
We need somebody to hold the balloon hose in the helium. Preston, you want to do that? Okay, cool.
It's High Altitude Balloon Launch Day for the Big Red Satellite team.
Let it go and just kind of have your hands ready in that flat spoon position.
The goal? Test scientific equipment, the payload, they'll eventually send to space in a small satellite.
Tell me what you guys are doing.
We're connecting the sun sensor that we have on the payload to the actual kind of computer, the brain of the payload.
I'm working on checking off the checklist and making sure everything gets done that's meant to get done before you launch.
I have to put on some latex gloves and help hold the balloon down when it floats up, just to make sure the wind doesn't shift it.
And your payload's going up in a styrofoam beach cooler?
It gets the job done.
3, 2, 1, go!
Down there.
The Big Red Satellite Project began in 2020 with Eastern Nebraska middle and high school students selected to work with NASA, University of Nebraska-Lincoln engineering students and faculty, and industry mentors and advisors. They met Saturday mornings for several years, mostly in UNL's Aerospace Club lab, working on different aspects of the CubeSat that will test perovskites in space. Hold on, let's take a second to explain these two things.
So what is a CubeSat?
So a CubeSat, it's a mini satellite, and so it's a cube that's about 10 centimeters square, and it has no propulsion system. So it gets launched into space, and then it orbits, and the orbit decays and it burns up and it comes back. But it's small, but it can carry very interesting experimental payloads.
This is the top face of our payload fixture.
Groups in lots of states have created CubeSats. This is Nebraska's first, a cost-efficient way to do research in space on things like perovskites. These are minerals that could be used in solar panels to more efficiently power space vehicles.
They are much thinner, lighter weight than traditional solar cells.
The unique thing about perovskites is that they may be able to collect reflected light and use that as energy, and so that would provide a really useful alternative to current solar panels.
Each Saturday presents new tasks,
Oh, there's a big leak right here.
Where?
Already marked it. Got marked.
Okay.
like building a chamber to work on the materials in something simulating space conditions.
Wait, what's the pressure at now?
Almost 101.
You said we were to send one curve every 3 days.
Budgeting for data coming back to Earth from the CubeSat.
We're trying to see how much data we can send over.
Which means what?
How we can test our perovskites in space with how much money it costs to send data back to us.
Assembling a model of the CubeSat.
But this will actually carry our payload that does the research. There's all sorts of different steps along the way that really add excitement.
Don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, it's like, am I gonna
it's not. Yeah.
A few months before the launch, it's photos and reflections before the CubeSat leaves Lincoln.
Smile.
You look at all of this and like, this is science. This is development, engineering, and we've gone through it and we're finally here. Now we're going to space.
I started this in high school, and now that I'm in college, it's like, wow, I'm still here.
It's cool to see all the iterations that we've gone through and being a part of the team and getting to meet like all these new people over the years. So it's just been a really fun experience.
My grandfather John McClure started this whole thing, and I feel like he would be really proud of where we're all right now.
He wanted to do something to bring aerospace industry to Nebraska to expose middle school and high school students to these opportunities.
5, 4. The Lincoln entrepreneur passed away before getting to see this.
And liftoff at a Dragon Appearance at Space Launch Complex 40.
T-minus 60 seconds until deployment of Big Red Sat 1 from the International Space Station. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark.
There it is.
Look at us.
Bye-bye.
It's pretty cool to see, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there it goes. I mean, it was just here, not that long ago.
This data may be of interest, across the world. There are lots of people studying perovskites, so we'll be doing our data analysis, but there may be others who are actually analyzing our data as well.
More than 3 years of hard work paid off. The CubeSat gathered good information about new solar panel materials, and a bunch of students, some starting this before they started high school, got the experience of a lifetime.
Go!
This process has been very helpful in realizing how much work goes into making a satellite, even when ours is this big. So all that planning, building, and money that's gone into it is just a lot more than I expected.
I'm going to watch this thing get loaded onto a NASA rocket, like dumped out of a bag, and then shot off into space where it's going to orbit around the Earth, and I'm going to have to look at data points for that is like so wild.
What do you hope the sort of legacy of this project is?
The experiences that the students are getting from this project is amazing, and it's inspiring them.
This wasn't the only Nebraska-related research on the space station. Another tested a surgical tool in space with the doctor on Earth. Earlier, What If told you about UNL engineering professor Shane Ferriter and the robotic surgery platform called Mira he's creating with his company, Virtual Incision. Here's how it works. This part's inserted into the patient, 2 arms and a camera.
Mira has different instruments, graspers and scissors. It has cautery energy so that it can burn and cut at the same time and prevent bleeding.
The surgeon operates the robot with foot pedals and hand controllers. It's similar to robotic surgery tools already in use. The big difference is small size.
It's like we've shrunk the surgeon down and put them inside the body.
This makes it cheaper and easier to move from room to room, and opens up some other possibilities.
And liftoff. Go Cygnus, go Falcon.
Like remote surgery in space. That's what Mira creators tested with the robot on the space shuttle, and Ferriter and others operating it at the Virtual Incision headquarters, taking turns cutting rubber bands.
We're very excited to finally get our device up in space. Little robots are very cool, and if we can control it from here on Earth, I think that's a pretty major accomplishment.
This NASA-funded test was especially exciting for Ferriter, who spent a year working at NASA for his PhD. They were successful, overcoming things like a slight signal lag between Earth and the space station. The results could help open doors for remote surgery in lots of places.
So on Earth, remote surgery could be very powerful. It's a ways off in the future, but you can imagine so many hospitals in Nebraska where a specialist or a specialized surgeon isn't available. And if you could have someone dial in from a distance and assist with the surgery, we could get people to stay home and get better access to the care they need where they live.
If you like fast, this is fast. The SR-71 set one record by traveling almost 2,200 miles an hour. Set another by flying from London to New York in less than 2 hours. Not really sure how many airline points you get for that, though. Lots of invention made this work. How about coating it with special black paint and precious metals like gold to withstand the 1,000-degree heat of supersonic flight? And developing radar and photo systems for this recon plane to survey more than 100,000 square miles in an hour. All right, now it's time for me to jet. Visit our website to check out all of our What If videos and learn about the Nebraska composers whose original music you've been hearing in all of our stories. And follow us on social media at #WhatIfNebraska. Thanks to the museum staff here for all their help, and thank you for watching What If. Was designed by the Dynetics company. How about some space travel? This lander was designed by the Dynetics company. Can't have enough video of people working on computers.
Is that gonna stay there?
Yep.
All right. Nope.